these little moments in history that arrive quietly. They're dressed in routine, and without warning, they suddenly reveal they have teeth. And on May 30th of 1842, London carried on as it always did, with its carts rattling, its vendors calling, its respectable citizens strolling along with purpose and pretense. Along Constitution Hill, a crowd gathered, not in alarm, but in anticipation, for the Queen herself would be passing that way. Queen Victoria, sovereign of a growing empire, also known as Empress of India, she sat beside her one true love, Prince Albert, in an open carriage, visible to all, admired by many, and though less spoken of, despised by a few. What a romantic sight that must have been. It's easy in hindsight to imagine crowns as shields, as though the mere presence of a monarch might deflect danger. Yet Victoria's reign, long and commanding though it would end up being, was shadowed by a series of attempts upon her life. Not one or two, but 8 in total, each carried out by men who, whether driven by madness or grievance or the desperate hunger for notoriety, chose to raise a hand against the most visible symbol of power in the land. The first of these attempts had come in 1840, when Edward Oxford, a young man of only 18 years, fired upon the Queen as she rode in Hyde Park, 5 months with child. His aim failed, whether through nerves, incompetence, or some strange mercy. He later claimed that his pistols held only powder, not shot. And this is a statement that satisfied neither logic nor comfort. He was declared insane and removed from society, but the incident lingered, and it was a warning not fully understood. Time passed, as it always does, softening the sharpness of fear, while leaving its outline fully intact. Then came John Francis, a man less tentative and perhaps a little more determined. On May 29th of 1842, he positioned himself along the Queen's route and raised his weapon as her carriage approached. Prince Albert saw him, and he noted his manner, and he understood at once what danger stood before them. Francis pulled the trigger, but the pistol misfired, sparing the Queen, not by design, but by simple failure. He slipped away into the city, leaving behind not relief, but his own unfinished intent. One might suppose that such an event would lead to caution, to closed gates, guarded corridors, to a sovereign removed from the public view until the threat had passed. That would have been expected, of course. It would have been the sensible course. It would have been the human course. But yet what followed was something altogether completely different. The Queen, fully informed of the danger, agreed to ride out again the very next evening along the same route, in the same open carriage, before a crowd that could not possibly know how close they stood to the calamity. Here, then, lies the truth that history often softens, but should not. This second ride was no mere display of courage. The courage is certainly required for what she did. It was a calculated act, a deliberate choice to draw in the attacker. Plainclothes officers were pacing about in the crowd. They were placed. They were watching and waiting and preparing to act. The Queen herself became, in effect, the instrument by which the man would be caught. It's a peculiar thing to consider that a monarch bound by duty, yet exposed by it, would consent to becoming the focus of the danger in order to ensure its end. She placed herself as the bait. And so on May 30th of 1842, the carriage rolled out once more along the Constitution Hill. The crowd gathered again, unaware of the invisible tension woven among them. Francis had returned, as expected, compelled either by obsession or by the simple refusal to abandon his purpose. This time when he raised his pistol and he fired, the shot rang true in sound, though not in consequence. The Queen was not struck. The moment, though brief, carried the weight of all that might have been. There was no collapse into panic, no dramatic halt of the procession. Victoria and Albert completely maintained their composure, a stillness that spoke louder than any cry. Around them, the machinery of justice moved swiftly. Officers seized Francis, preventing his escape, ending his brief and dangerous performance upon the stage he had chosen. He was later sentenced to death, which was the customary punishment for such a crime. Yet even here, this wonderful woman, this queen, intervened. She commuted his sentence to transportation to a penal colony rather than execution. It was a sentence of life, but it was still not death. It would not be the last time such restraint was shown. In the years that followed, others would attempt what Francis had failed to achieve. John William Bean, whose weapon was loaded not with bullets but with tobacco. William Hamilton, whose pistol carried powder but no shot. Robert Pate, who came closer than any, striking the queen with a cane and leaving her bruised and marked. He also crushed her bonnet, which I'm given to understand was the thing she was most upset about. Arthur O'Connor, who sought not her death, but her intention. Armed with a broken pistol and a political plea, he wanted a conversation. Roderick MacLean, whose wild shot missed entirely. Each man was different, yet united in the same futile defiance. What is most remarkable is not merely that Victoria survived these attempts, but that she refused to retreat from the public eye. Where others might have hidden behind walls, she continued to ride, to appear, to be seen. It was not that she was fearless, for no person entirely lacks fear without a medical cause, but that she understood something essential about power. To withdraw would be to concede ground not only to her attackers, but to the idea that such threats could dictate the terms of her own rule. In this, there's a lesson both subtle and enduring. Power, when visible, invites both admiration and hostility. Always, no matter who you are, no matter what age this might be. The greater the presence, the greater the risk. Yet to diminish that presence in the name of safety is to alter the very nature of what is being protected. Victoria chose vulnerability, knowing its dangers, and in doing so transformed each failed attempt into a reinforcement of her own position rather than a weakening of it. The shot fired on that May evening did not change the course of history in the way that its author intended. It did not topple a throne, nor did it silence a reign that would stretch across 63 years. Instead, it revealed the strange and often uncomfortable truth that authority is not only exercised in moments of command, but in moments of vulnerability such as this, when the choice to stand firm carries consequences both immediate and unseen. And so we return to that carriage, to that road, to that brief and violent interruption of an ordinary day. The crowd dispersed. The city resumed to its rhythm, and the Queen continued her duties. The danger passed, though never entirely gone. History happened, and history moved forward, as it always does, carrying with it the echoes of what might have been. It is a curious thing, perhaps, that a crown can survive so many blows, not by avoiding them, but by enduring them in full view of the world. In that endurance lies its strength, though one might say that ruling a kingdom is less about avoiding danger, more about outlasting those who might bring it. But now I would ask you this, and I hope you will answer in the comments. You know how I love to read your comments. When faced with real danger, is true leadership shown by stepping back to preserve safety, or by directly stepping forward to confront the threat directly, even at great personal risk? And another question, how do you think the world would have changed? How do you think England and the United Kingdom would have changed if any of these attempts had been successful? Of course, if you enjoy stories like this, make sure you follow the History Happens Facebook page for more deep dives into history's most fascinating moments. And subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. Every subscriber helps, every comment helps, every like, share, and follow